Welcome to TYT Sports, everybody. Ben Mankiewicz here, Rick Strom, producing the program. Rick, how are you?
I'm doing well. Ben. How you doing?
I'm fine. Joining us from Sports Illustrated and CBS Sports, Seth Davis. Seth, thanks for being here.
My pleasure, guys. How you guys doing?
We are good. Seth, we have a couple of connections, which I guess you are not aware of. First of all, you in your studio work for the tournament, you were in the Turner Studios in Atlanta. I believe you shot in the studio next to the studio that I shoot. I'm a host at Turner Classic Movies.
Oh, great!
Yeah.
It's a big building, but a lot of studios down there.
There are, but if you did any work in the NBA studios, that is generally the studio that I shoot right next to. And
that must be why we were so excellent. Your vibes were still in the building,
still right
carried
there.
over.
Share a lot of the same crew that the NBA guys do. And then, but far more importantly, in 1976 in Montgomery County, Maryland.
Yeah, I heard the name Mankiewicz. I thought that might be what you were referring to.
That's right. Your father sought the Democratic nomination for Congress, and he edged out my father in a five-person race. So Lanny Davis beat Frank Mankiewicz. And when I discovered a couple years ago that you were Seth Davis, Lanny Davis's son, I thought, oh, look at that! Look at that! All of a sudden.
Well, that was a long time ago, boy. How old were you during that race?
I was 9.
You were 9.
Yeah.
So you're older than me by like 3 years.
Yeah, there was a People magazine did some story on my dad then, and there's pictures of me and my dad actually playing basketball.
Oh, that's great.
Which, by the way, happened that day and no other days. I mean, I played plenty of basketball, but I don't remember Dad coming out and.
Don't create a rivalry here with our guests, please.
We both had fathers who ran for Congress, and we lived to tell about it. That's a good thing, man.
Yeah,
That's a good thing.
Totally a good thing. And
Frank Mankiewicz, I remember the name quite well.
I ran into your dad at the Democratic National Convention back in 2004, and we had a nice little
I'll bet he was thrilled to meet you. You always spoke very, very highly of your dad.
Yeah. All right, so a few people have nailed a prediction about a championship game, or I think any sporting event, more than you did regarding the Connecticut-Butler game. You pointed out that the Final Four games were not well played, that the four teams shot 31.3% on threes, and then you asked who is ready to win ugly, and you said if you're expecting a finesse, efficient, balletic, a word I did not know existed, basketball game, don't bother tuning in, and man, were you right.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
it did not make for very good television. I mean, I certainly expected that kind of game. I can't say that I expected it to be quite that bad, particularly from Butler's standpoint. And I don't know if it was, there's some chatter that maybe the atmospherics of a dome with the different backdrops and the elevated floor may have thrown everybody off, because across the 3 games, the level of shooting was quite low. But whatever it was, I mean, Butler just absolutely couldn't make anything. I made the analogy in the post-game show on True TV. For Butler, I think it was like one of those dreams where you're back in high school and you're taking a test and you realize you're naked. It was just one of those things for Butler, like, for Brad Stevens and the guys, just everything they shot up, no matter what it was, it didn't go in. UConn is obviously a very good defensive team, but good defense doesn't explain 18% shooting, which was the lowest, I think, since 1941, I want to say. So, it's too bad because it was such a great season, such a great tournament, and such a great run for Butler. I think in the short term, people kind of have that bad taste in their mouths off of the final, but I think over the longer term, people are going to look back at this tournament with Butler and the VCU story and everything that went into that as a great, great success.
Worst championship game ever?
Well, if you measure by shooting percentages, for sure. It was definitely bad. It was definitely ugly, and as fans, we'd like to see the shots go in. Actually, Ben, I think that John Adams, who's the NCAA supervisor of officials, and other powers that be across college basketball, I think they really need to look at the way the game is officiated, because if you talk to folks in the NBA, particularly NBA scouts who attend a lot of college games and they watch a lot of pro games, almost across the board, they will tell you that college basketball has become more physical than the NBA. And when that's the case, then I think that we need to do some serious self-examination.
Any chance that I know the answer to this question, but any chance they stop playing these Final Four games in incredibly large domes? Any chance we could just move them to incredibly big basketball arenas? Because it doesn't feel right there.
Well, you answered your own question. I mean, obviously, the more fannies they can put in the seats, the more money they can make, and that genie's so far out of the bottle. I mean, the last basketball arena that hosted a Final Four was 1996. That was the Meadowlands, and the shooting hasn't been that bad across the board for all of the 14 or 15 games that have taken place since then. Now, there is a new setup. This is the third year that they've used this new setup where they put the court right smack in the middle of the arena. What they've done in the past, Ben, is bring in a grandstand where you're basically cornering off, maybe a third of the dome. But it's just gotten to a point now. I mean, you've got 70,000 plus inside of a football stadium. I mean, it's an incredible spectacle. If you've ever been there, especially under this new arrangement, you look around you. I mean, it's an incredible scene. So I don't know that it doesn't quote unquote feel right. And if you look 2 years ago, the first year they did it, didn't really seem to bother North Carolina. So they proved that you can shoot well in there. But I think we need a little bit more time and more sample data to look at these shooting percentages and see, is there really a huge drop-off between now and from before they went to the current arrangement. But if you're looking for the Final Four to go back into a basketball arena, that ship has sailed.
Hey, Seth, we talked about Brad Stevens, and you mentioned in your column he's very intelligent, he's very mature. Do you think that he will stay at Butler and honor his contract till 2021, 2022 season? And build a powerhouse at Butler, or do you think he'll depart for the next best thing?
Well, I don't know any of us who can say what we're doing 10 years from now. I'd like to know what I'm doing 10 months from now, to be honest. So, I mean, who knows? But, I definitely think that there's a very real possibility, Ricky, that Brad Stevens could retire as the head coach of Butler. I mean, I don't see why not. I don't know what job is out there that's better than the one that he has. Now, you want to tell me Duke, you want to tell me North Carolina, Kansas. I mean, Indiana is kind of the obvious one. It's right there. He's from the state, grew up in Zionsville, went to DePauw University, met his wife at DePauw, loves being in Indiana. Obviously, the last 2 years, based on what they've done, he's had options to be able to go elsewhere. But, beyond those very, very few schools, I mean, you just look at the current cycle. I mean, is North Carolina State a better job than Butler? I don't think so. Could he make, $2 million as opposed to $1 million a year? But what is he giving up to do that? I mean, I think the one thing that he really appreciates is, number one, the purpose of being a coach is to get your team into the NCAA tournament. So you have to ask, like if you're Mark Few at Gonzaga, he always says this. I mean, he's got a great chance to go to the NCAA tournament every single year, and you don't just give that up. And then I think the other thing is he's got great job security there. He's never looking over his shoulder. The phrase that he likes to use, which he's used with me, is being empowered at work. I mean, he goes to work and he feels empowered every single day. He works for an athletic director in Barry Collier, who used to coach at Butler, used to be the basketball coach in Nebraska. So he understands what it takes to be successful at that level. And look at him now. He's been in the national championship game for 2 straight years, and nobody else can say that. So, this notion that, as long as he's at Butler, somehow he's not validated or he's unfulfilled, I just don't think that it's true, and I don't think that Brad buys into that. So, and the last point that I'll make is this, Ricky, because people compare Brad's situation to Mark Few's at Gonzaga. Both those guys preceded coaches. In Few's case, it was Dan Monson, who went to Minnesota, and in Brad Stevens' case, it was Todd Licklider, who went to Iowa. Both those guys went for the big money, went for the big job, and eventually got fired. And now they're basically, Dan Monson's at Long Beach State. I don't even know where Todd Licklider is right now, quite frankly. I'm not even sure that he's coaching. So I think those guys have seen their predecessors leave for quote-unquote greener pastures, and it ended up biting them. So I think there's a very good chance that he could be at Butler for life.
Hey, Seth, the way that LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh getting together and going to Miami made me incredibly uncomfortable, and I'm not even sure I could totally explain why, although I know I'm not alone. The one-and-done situation in college basketball, I hate it. I can't stand it. It's one of the things I dislike most about sports. Any chance college basketball follows the college baseball model, says you can go right to the NBA when you're done with high school, or you got to stay 3 years?
Well, that is the conversation that is evolving, Ben. But first of all, you have to really make a very important point, and that is this is not a college basketball rule. This has nothing to do with the NCAA. This is a deal that was struck between the NBA and the NBA Players Association in the last collective bargaining agreement, and of course, right now that CBA is being renegotiated as we speak, or not being renegotiated as we speak, but it's up. I don't like the one and done rule either, but for different reasons. I don't like the fact that you have young men who have an opportunity to cash in on their talents, and that they're being denied that opportunity. People keep saying about how bad it is for high school players to go to the NBA, and I hear all these NBA people complaining about how young these guys are. My answer is, if you don't want these guys in your league, then stop drafting them. So I think it would be preferable if they change the rule to go to a setup similar to baseball, whereas if you're coming out of high school, you're able to go straight to the NBA. But if you go to college, it has to be for 2 years. I don't think they'll get it to 3.
Yeah, I agree with you. 2 years. 2 years makes sense. Yeah, I mean, part of it is that, I mean, I totally agree with you. Why? Yeah, if you don't want to draft an 18-year-old, don't draft an 18-year-old. But part of the other thing is like these guys, you come in September, you start playing ball. The practice is October 15th, and you play, and then you're done in March, and then these guys are done with school. It just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel authentic in any way.
Well, again, I think it's authentic to them. I think if it's, look, kids go to college not filled with dreams of winning a championship for Old State U. I mean, they go there to be professionals, just like we all went to college to be professionals. And in their profession, if you've been at school a year and somebody wants to draft you in the first round or even in the second round, college is not for everybody. I would rather have somebody leave than come back to college for the sole purpose of improving his draft position and not honoring the integrity of the academic process, whether they're taking classes or skipping classes or getting papers written for them and whatnot. So I'm kind of a freedom of movement, Ben, guy in that respect. If they have a chance to go, then I think they should have the opportunity to go. Who's to say? I
totally agree with you. This is not some sort of naive, idealistic view of college. I'm talking about just the 1 year where I don't even feel like they're part of the team. I care more about the idea of being part of a team, and I just feel like to do that, you sort of go through the whole process. That's why, even if it's 2 years, then you've done that. I don't care about. I don't even care if they go to class. By the way, I love Old State U. That's my safety school.
Well, hold on. Are we going to see a change now, Seth, in that a lot of those under-the-radar teams like a VCU that may have a little more upperclassmen on their team get into the postseason and make more of a run? Is that going to start being a trend now in the tournament?
Well, I certainly think that we've seen it the last several years. I mean, you go back to George Mason making the Final Four, teams like a Davidson making a run through the tournament when you have a great player like Stephen Curry. And the fact is that the quote-unquote power conference schools, they don't keep their guys around. So it's harder for them to differentiate themselves and separate themselves from the pack. So if you're at a mid-major school and you have guys who maybe aren't quite as talented, but they're older, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're more mature, they understand how to play better, you can beat teams with superior talent. So I think we're already seeing that happen, and that's, again, something that I don't think is necessarily going to change because when these underclassmen have an opportunity to turn pro, most of the times they take it.
Let me ask you just a couple more questions, Seth, then we'll let you go. If the average fan were able to see into the recruiting process, how grossed out would they be?
Extremely. You need a hot shower. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It gets worse every year. I kind of feel like one of those old fuddy-duddies when I talk like this, but it's true. I mean, I've been covering the sport now for 20 years. It gets worse every year, and the reason is because of agents. I mean, agents are to college basketball what steroids are to baseball. They're everywhere. They're a cancer. They're corrupting.
Does the presence of these agents and the runners for the agents, does it corrupt otherwise good coaches and less corrupt coaches? I mean, does it sort of drag coaches who might do things essentially on the up and up and sort of drag them down into the process because of the enormous pressure to compete? You know what I'm saying?
Well, here's the thing. It's really not even about the coaches anymore. I mean, these coaches are basically just conduits now. I mean, the whole dynamic is forged around the idea of delivering a player to an agent. In other words, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, we thought about a coach or a booster showing up in a kid's living room, with a briefcase full of cash to try to get them to go to a certain school because I'm a booster at that school and I want to control the school. Now what happens is much of this money that gets filtered around is actually legal because it goes through the grassroots system. So somebody who's a conduit for an agent 2 or 3 levels above is going to fund an AAU program and get you affiliated with a sneaker company and pay for your travel and pay for your gear and get you in tournaments and get you visible, then put you at a school where your interests are going to be protected. So the coach doesn't have to do anything. It's kind of like, I mean, to me, the classic recent example is the O.J. Mayo case. I mean, O.J. Mayo was about a guy who was working for a runner, as a runner for an agent who was giving money to O.J. Mayo, put him at a school at USC where he could still deliver to O.J. Mayo to this agent on the back end. Now, the whole thing came a cropper because somebody else in the little circle of trust got mad and ran to ESPN, but at the end of the day, not a smudge of mud got stuck to Tim Floyd. He was completely exonerated because he had nothing to do with it. He was a conduit. So it's not the college coach that's necessarily getting corrupted, it's the kid. It's the whole process and the kids on his team and the kids at these AAU tournaments, and it's a nasty, nasty deal. And it really, to me, falls on the NBA Players Association because that's the organization that certifies agents and supposedly polices agents. And to me, they're completely in absentia as far as dealing with that particular problem.
Coaches used to be able to claim, as sort of the lame argument used to be, hey, I don't know anything about it, but it sounds like now that actually might be a genuine argument for some coaches.
Argument for what?
To say, like, hey, I didn't know what was going on underneath me. That always used to be what coaches say when all that, in the 70s and 80s, Dick Vermeil. Well, Dick Vermeil used to say UCLA, there are worse things than fixing a kid's transcript, which was also a great line. But, coaches would say, with John Wooden at UCLA, I didn't know what Sam Gilbert was doing. But now what you're saying is that coaches can legitimately say, I didn't know what was happening in my program.
Yeah, but they can also legitimately say I didn't want to know, and I think that's maybe been the one thread throughout history with these coaches, whether it's Jerry Tarkanian or John Wooden or Tim Floyd or what have you. At a certain point, you make an active decision to say I don't want to know, and I think there's far too many people right now saying I don't want to know in terms of what these agents are doing in this recruiting network, and to me that's really where all the action is. And it's one thing, by the way, that college football really doesn't have. College football does not have this grassroots AAU summertime, no supervision, no, adult responsibility, frankly. Now, they may be going that way with these 7-on-7 camps that are starting to crop up, and you're starting to see that's a way for agents to get in. But once agents are in the house, they're kind of like cockroaches. You can spray in certain areas and you can plug certain holes, but they find another way to get in. So it's not pretty. I'm not going to lie to you.
Seth, let's transition into something a little lighter and easier on the ears here. Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith. What was it like working with those two at the desk in the studio?
I loved it. I really loved it, and not just working with them, by the way, but just being around them and talking basketball with them and life. And I thought those guys did a great job. I mean, obviously. I heard some complaints that they didn't know enough about college basketball, but they weren't trying to sell themselves as college basketball experts. They're basketball experts, and they understand the game of basketball. They can watch games and react and get the information they need to get. And there are enough geeks like myself who can provide a little bit more nuts and bolts of information as far as what's going on. But those guys know basketball. They're great broadcasters. And they're great guys. I really enjoyed being around them.
Yeah, I thought it was a real nice contrast with you sort of doing some nuts and bolts, and they were providing sort of flow of game. They were like they talked about players and what they saw in the first half, and it didn't matter that they didn't know every guy on the team. I agree. It provided from a broadcasting point of view. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Real quick, shouldn't when you foul a guy before an inbounds pass, when you're down in the last minute of the game, shouldn't that be like a free throw and the ball?
That's something that actually has come up in conversation about that rule. There are certain ways that you foul in that situation that are not considered intentional. But you are able. The point is that you're able to foul without seeing the clock go off. So I guess the NBA rule is that if no time on the clock goes off, it's automatically an intentional foul. In college, you can make it look like you're making a legitimate defensive play on someone who's cutting and have that not be an intentional foul. But I think that's a great point. I think that's something that ought to be tweaked.
Last two questions are short, just for my own sort of personal sort of interests. Is UCLA still a top 10 program?
Yeah, they may not be a top 10 team, but I still think they're certainly an elite program, absolutely.
And do you think there's a chance they'll be better next year without Tyler Honeycutt? Because I sort of think they will be.
Well, I'd rather take my chances with him, to be honest. I mean, the kid is a really, really talented player, or he wouldn't be going. I'd be surprised if Malcolm Lee stays in the draft. I can't imagine that he would really have those same kind of options. But I talked to NBA scouts throughout the year, and they love Tyler Honeycutt. He's a real talent. He's not necessarily as consistent as he needs to be at this stage of his career, but he's going to be a very wealthy young man next year. And they have the Ware twins who are going to come eligible, who I think are going to be a huge addition. So I think they will clearly be better than they were this year. But I think they'd be better off if Honeycutt had come back.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. He's a terrific player. I just thought there was some stagnancy when things went through him, and so I just think with the Ware twins, there's a possibility that there's a bottleneck situation up front. I definitely want Malcolm Lee back, no question. There's that lockdown defense, and obviously there's a weakness.
Well, I'm sure that will weigh very heavily into his decision, the fact that you want him back. So make sure you communicate to him that him directly, Ben, and that will sway him.
I feel bad because I haven't answered that email yet, and
I don't know why you're talking to me.
I got to get on that. Seth Davis, great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Seth.
Ben and Ricky, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right.